What's up, everybody, and welcome to One Man's Opinion. And today we're talking about Cobra Kai Season 4. We will be getting into spoiler territories. I'll be talking about the highs and lows of Season 4, what I liked, what I didn't like, and we'll be talking about my predictions for upcoming seasons, what I think we can expect, or at least a few characters that we can expect to enter the ongoing saga here. But we got a lot to cover, so let's get into it right away. Number one, happy to say that this was my favorite season since season one. I super enjoyed this one. I thought that the writing, the storytelling, I thought that the character development, everything to me took a step up. There was a lot less forced drama, things that didn't seem, in season 3 there was a lot of drama, and it kind of started in season 2. A lot of it seemed forced, and it seemed to lend itself to that sort of CW21 drama that, like, if you just had a simple conversation, you could pretty much fix everything going on in the show, but characters, for whatever reason, just never say what they need to say until the last possible second or until it's too late. Didn't get a lot of that in this season. In this season, all of the drama felt very real. There were some very heart-touching moments. The moment, especially when, like, Miguel was putting Johnny to bed after Johnny had been in the fight, when he laid him down for bed in that moment and he called him Robbie instead of Miguel, that was a hard moment to watch, man. That kid who plays Miguel really does a really good job, and I thought the acting overall was really, really good this season. I thought Tori had an amazing story this season. I loved her arc. I'm glad she got the win. I felt like they needed to go that direction. Not that necessarily that Cobra Kai needed to win, but I thought Tori needed to win. In a lot of ways, this season was her season. There was a lot to do with her and her character, and we saw a lot of growth out of her character, and I thought it was well-deserved, and I was happy to see her get the win. I also liked the direction they took Little Miss LaRusso there. I thought that her direction in this film was very good, and starting to go against her father, it was cool to see her take on some of Johnny's teachings. I will say Johnny takes a little bit of a back seat in this season. Up until this season, it has felt like it was Johnny's story. The love is getting spread more and more. I think that started in season 3, but more and more other characters are starting to get the spotlight. It doesn't feel like it's Johnny's story anymore. Instead, it feels like an All Valley story now. A story that is more complete. I know in the beginning it was really focused on Johnny and Daniel, and I also know that we always had moments where we jump back and forth between different characters, but it still felt like it was Johnny's story, trying to show a side of Johnny we never got to see. But here lately, especially in this season, it sure feels like we're moving away from that a little bit, and it's becoming a little bit of everybody's story. Last season was heavily focused on Miguel and his recovery. This season seemed to focus more on Tori than anybody, and I enjoyed that. I really liked the addition of Silver, of Terry Silver. He was really good this season. The back and forth, it's very reminiscent of who he was when he first showed up in Karate Kid 3. I love how it starts off, and he's just kind of a pawn in Kreese's schemes. But as it goes, he's more and more his own villain who is going his own direction and may even be worse than Kreese. And I like that. I like that because last season they really tried to make Kreese a sympathetic villain, and I don't think that it played well. I don't personally, I didn't enjoy that. I didn't really care for it a whole lot, but it did set up the entrance for Mr. Silver. And I think he's going to play off as a much better villain, a little bit more unhinged, a little less sympathetic, and I really like what they're doing. It was good to see the return of a few characters that we haven't seen in a while, especially Aisha. It was good to see her again, and I hope I didn't get her name wrong. Anybody who watches my channel much knows that I'm not very good with names. But it was good to see her again and have her a little moment where she could sort of help out in the story. I know she wasn't back, but it was good to see her again. I thought that the big guy, the older kind of guy, I thought he should have probably remained sidelined. I know why they brought him back. He was a useful pawn for Silver, for Terry to use, and I know that they needed a character to fill those shoes. I liked him a lot in his season, what was that, 2? Yeah, season 2, that he was in it a lot more. I liked him a lot then. Bringing him back now, I don't know. He wasn't my favorite shining moment. As we're talking about characters who took a step back for me, I really thought Miss LaRusso, I just didn't like her this season. I understand her motivations this season, trying to protect her daughter, but confronting a high school student and like making threats and stuff like that is weird. It was a really weird position to see her in. And then like even as Tori showed up to ask for help, she was still being like really catty with her, and it just was a weird look. It was a bad look for her, and to me, I was like on Tori's side almost the whole time because of the way, not even the way Sam was toward her, but more the way Miss LaRusso was. She was always just like hounding this girl, and it seemed like, back off and leave this girl alone. Now, somebody's going to be like, oh, well, she didn't know that everything that Tori had been through. I don't care. Your daughter got in a fight with another student at school. I understand you want to protect your daughter. I get all that. But to confront a high school student and make threats, it seemed very odd. Also, along that same lines, the bigger guy who invites high school students over to his house to drink, that seemed like a weird move for the writers to make as well, potentially problematic for that character, as if he hasn't had enough trouble already in that department. But stepping away from those two, Daniel and Johnny, their attempt to work together, the rise and fall of the Miyagi-Do Eagle Fang working together, I thought was done brilliantly. I thought that went about as well as it could have. As far as the writing goes, as far as the storytelling goes, I thought everybody stayed true to character, and I thought it went the way that it should have gone. They tried to make it work. It didn't work. The students tried to make it work. That kept a Band-Aid on the situation for a little while. Both sides learned a little bit from the other, but ultimately couldn't work together. And then to see them come back together at the end to try to help Sam get the victory was really good to see. And I hate that she lost, but I did feel that it was Tori's time. Dimitri, let me go ahead and say, because I don't have much to say about him, I like Dimitri a lot in this season. He kind of took a step back a little bit. He wasn't quite as annoying. He loosened up some, and he just got to be a part of the action instead of like kind of complaining and being hesitant as much as he has in the past. It was really cool to see him loosen up and be a part of the action and be, there for Hawk in a time where Hawk needed him a lot. Hawk's story in this season was really, really good. I thought that the direction they took Hawk's character was really good. It made sense. Coming back to the good side and being with Miyagi-Do was really good. But I also like how the other guys in the first half of the season didn't take it easy on him. How they still didn't fully trust him at first. I like how they didn't just gloss over all the history that they had, because there would have been a lot of hurt feelings there. And so for them to stick the landing and then have them shave Hawk's mohawk and make him a little more sympathetic and very, very relatable in that way as a guy who just made a mistake but isn't a bad person, was really good. I thought solid job with Hawk's character. Loved to see him get the win in the All Valley. I thought that was really cool, because there really have been 3 strong male contenders in this story so far: Miguel, Robbie, and Hawk. But it always felt like Hawk was the third wheel. He was always the backseat. And I always said that I hope Hawk gets his moment to shine. He did here, with a caveat that I hate, though. I hate that they gave Miguel an injury, a re-pull of that back muscle. I don't think it was necessary. I thought that was a little bit of bad writing. Miguel was already very, very conflicted going into the fight. He already had a lot on his mind emotionally, mentally. He was going through quite a bit. Miguel's never been beat, and they wanted to keep that alive because Miguel's sort of the golden boy of the story. And don't get me wrong, I love Miguel, but I think a loss would have actually done him a lot of good. I think it would have been a stronger statement for Hawk's character too, to have beat Miguel properly. Now, he does technically have, I guess, a disqualification win over Miguel, and even if he had beaten him here, it would have had an asterisk, because you would have thought, well, Miguel was not 100%, he wasn't in his right mind, but it wouldn't have been as glaring as Miguel having to bow out. And so I thought they should have. I don't like to think, and I guess what I'm trying to say is, I don't like to think that in the future, anytime they need Miguel out of a tournament or out of the way, just ride in a back injury. I think that's lazy riding. If I'm making sense to you, it's lazy riding to give a character an injury and then have him be perfectly fine when you want him, and then when you don't want him to win a tournament, just be like, oh, back injury, acted up, there it is. That's lazy riding, and now it sets a precedent that could be done any time. I think it would have been smarter to just have Hawk beat him. You could always, for anybody who's like a real Miguel stan, you could always just be like, well, he wasn't there mentally. You have a big comeback next season if that's what you need, or whatever, get him back in the flow. He's still going through a lot. It's all understandable, so it's not unreal to think that Hawk couldn't have beat him. And it seemed to be going that way anyway. Hawk was definitely toe-to-toe with him. Hawk then moves on and beats Robbie, which is a huge win, but also you still have that asterisk there of Robbie having, so much going on in the background. And so I am very happy to see Hawk get the win. I hate that it comes at the price of, well, Robbie and Miguel weren't at the top of their game. I think Hawk should be written on equal footing as the other two, and this was their best attempt to do that, I think. But I think they also wanted to make sure that there was a good excuse for Robbie and Miguel to still be, the top of the top. Hawk has his win now, and so no one can say he wasn't, just as good as the rest. But in the future, when the big showdowns come through, and Miguel is finally to 100%, and Robbie's at 100%, and they finally have their big fight, and the winner has to be decided. That's what your big finale will likely be. Is those two, and it won't be Hawk. So it was almost like we need to get this out of the way so that we make Hawk's character viable in the future, but we don't want to give him a true victory. And that was probably my biggest gripe of the season. And I know I've spent a lot of time on that, but I felt it needed mentioned. Honestly, not that big of a gripe though. I think they did well with it. I just think it could have been done a little better, if that makes sense. All in all, there's so much to talk about and so much to cover with this season. Overall, I thought it was an excellent season. I thought, like I said, the storytelling and the writing for this season really, really did a 180 to me. I was always hopeful that this season would be better than the third season. I thought it set itself up for greatness at the end of the third season. It was one of my favorite things about it, and they delivered. And the season 4 was great, top to bottom. I even found myself midway through the season thinking I may have made a mistake when I said that they only need to have another season or two and they need to be wrapping this up, because it looks like that this thing could have legs to go further. However, as the season did get toward the end, I found myself thinking the same thing. As much as I love this show, and I absolutely do, I still believe 1 or 2 more seasons is as far as you need to take this thing. I would say 2 maximum. I would say season 6 needs to be the last season. You're running dry on things to pull from the other movies. Yeah, you can throw in new threats, but the kids are also getting older, and it's just, there's only so far you can take this before you find yourself repeating yourself, before it becomes regurgitated issues, rehashed plot lines. They're doing so good avoiding that so far, and I hope I'm wrong. I honestly do. But there is a time coming where this show will take a dip if it runs for too long. I think 6 is the magic number. Let me say it plainly. I think 6 is the magic number, and I will be the first to admit I'm wrong if, 3 years from now we're watching season 7 out and it's still amazing and the writing is still really good. I'll be the first to say, hey, you know what? I was wrong when I said that. But I think season 6 is as far as you go. I said last time when I did season 3 that I thought season 5 was as far as you needed to go. I'm happy to admit I was wrong. Season 4, I always thought was going to be really good, but it was much better than I had anticipated. And the way that they're framing everything up gave me hope for 2 more seasons. Hard to see where they're going to go with it after 2 seasons. And that leads me into now my predictions for where the story will go from here. Miguel is gone to Mexico City and Johnny is going after him while Daniel stays behind to pick up the pieces with his buddy from Okinawa. And then you have Terry, who is calling in other Cobras. So I think what you'll see is Matt Mike, I'm sorry, Mike, and I think his last name's Barnes, Mike Barnes from the third movie, who beat the crap out of Daniel, like the whole movie, and then Daniel won it at the very end, like he always does. But I think you'll see Mike come back as like a really, really good villain to stand alongside of Terry. And Daniel already has help, but it wouldn't surprise me if they got I think her name was Julie from the fourth Karate Kid. Now, you'll have to forgive me. I never watched the fourth Karate Kid movie, but I would be shocked if she doesn't make an appearance in some form eventually on this show. I would think that they would reach out to her. If Daniel hits a low point, he needs to reach out to probably the only other person, as far as the movies go, who really received that Miyagi teaching, and that would be Julie from the fourth movie. And so I expect that we will see her eventually. I expect Mike will be the upcoming villain alongside Terry in season 5. As far as other Cobra Kai members, because he made it sound like there would be more than one. I really don't know who else you would get. I don't know if they were up against Cobra Kai in the fourth movie or not. So maybe there's another Cobra Kai member out there in the fourth movie, or maybe my memory of the third movie is hazy, but I don't remember any other big names in the third movie that they had to really go up against, that Daniel had to contend with. And so I'm thinking Mike would be the obvious upcomer for the villain side, and for our good guys, I think the most obvious up-and-comer would be Julie, or was it Julia from Karate Kid 4, either way. So those are my predictions. There may be a good amount of time with Miguel and Johnny out of the picture in season 5 while Daniel tries to pick up the pieces after this last tournament. But honestly, I don't know. Robbie's looking like he's ready to make a turn, and Tori is more and more a sympathetic character that could make a turn. And so if everyone that we've come to know eventually ends up joining sides, there will need to be an upswell of outside forces to fill in that villain role as far as at the kid's age. And so I don't know if they're setting Kenny up to be that bad guy. It would surprise me if he doesn't come around to the good guys as well, with Robbie being his tutor and all. Then you've got Anthony LaRusso's son, who's also still just kind of waiting in the wind there and is slowly getting more and more screen time. And it's seeming like it's only a matter of time before he really gets involved with it, because he took a pretty good butt kicking there at the end of the season. And so you imagine that he's going to be involved. And so I think this next season is going to be very, very interesting. It didn't leave me with quite the cliffhanger feeling that I had in season 3, though. I am interested, and I think season 4 is very, very good. But whereas at the end of season 3, where it left off is what left me excited for season 4, what makes me excited for season 5 is just how good season 4 was, and not necessarily where the story left off, if that makes any sense. Having said all that, I think this is probably my second favorite season of Cobra Kai. Right behind the first one, just in front of the second. And having not looked back to see what I rated season 1 and season 2, I could be putting my foot in my mouth with this rating. I don't really know. But overall, I feel like I'm giving Cobra Kai season 4 a 96 overall. All right, well, y'all let me know down in the comments below. There was a lot I wanted to talk about in this video. I know I left off some names. There were a lot of characters. There were a lot of things that happened in this season that I really wanted to touch on. I never did. I didn't even mention the comedy in the show. Still holding strong. Still 3 or 4 moments throughout the season that legitimately make me laugh out loud. Just absolutely bust a gut for a few seconds. And so it's good to see that they're still holding on to that comedy. Of course, Johnny's probably still my favorite character. I love Miguel. Those two really, I love their relationship, and I love watching those two on screen together. It's a blast, and I should have said that sooner. But anyway, y'all let me know down in the comments below what you thought of Season 4. What do you think is coming up in Season 5? Am I forgetting characters that may be making an appearance that are important enough to the story that they would make sense to add? Y'all just let me know down in the comments. Did you disagree? Did you not like Season 4? Let me know about it in the comments. Just don't get mad. Remember, this is just one man's opinion. Thanks.